I'm sorry. The person you called cannot be reached now.
Larry, I'm at my son's t-ball game. There are two kids banging on a trash can. Can you believe that they're training cheaters at the t-ball level?
And I want to welcome our truthful ombudsman, the great Louis Fine, and also one of the greatest lawyers, at least right now in California, the great Larry Klayman.
Well, in Florida, my home state, and everywhere else.
I don't like to give out your home state. I don't like to. I know you like to
I happen
say,
to be in California today.
And we're not going to share where. But I got to tell you guys, both of you guys, I woke up this morning. I usually wake up to watching either Fox Business or it depends what time I wake up, to Fox News. And I, like anybody else, whether you watch any of the networks, are being bombarded by, where Louis actually texted me, hold on, the hearings are about to start, and then we spoke about 4 hours later, and you said, no, I don't think the hearings start, the opening.
We were talking about the opening statements, but I wasn't watching this on television.
The opening statements aren't until tomorrow, and I'm watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, if I were to go to Guantanamo Bay tomorrow, and I wanted to torture the people there, I would put on loop Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, and Lofgren, and all of these people speaking, and we would find out every secret.
If you went to Guantanamo?
Yeah, if I went to Guantanamo and I had to torture somebody, that would be the truest form of torture.
That's true. Well, you remember that Woody Allen movie, Take the Money and Run, where his punishment, when he was locked up, they put him in solitary with an insurance salesman? Similar to that. They're a bunch of two-bit insurance salesmen.
I mean, I honestly, Louis, I can't believe that this is the best and brightest we have. And I mean, take it on both sides.
Well, that's the thing. When I go through my Facebook feed, and I'm friends with people of both political parties or members of both political parties, and I read the arguments against President Trump, the arguments proffered by Adam Schiff, and then repeated by some of my Facebook friends, most of whom I do not know in the real world. And I read this bill of indictment. I have one response to either side, Democrat or Republican. I just say, hashtag Harvard JD, or JD, comma, Harvard, or Harvard Law School, because one of the few good things about social media is that left to their own devices, people like Professor Lawrence Tribe, Adam Schiff, both of whom are graduates of the Harvard Law School, it removes the veneer, any pretense to the prestige and mystery and sense of worth to this brand. I've said this about Lawrence Tribe to a colleague of mine who is a law professor, and I've said it many times. Because he has tenure, he's all but immune to any sort of dismissal or sabbatical or firing. But you have to believe, I think, that the dean of Harvard Law School or the assistant dean has said or wants to say to Lawrence Tribe, Larry, this stuff you're tweeting, it's killing our brand. It's killing our brand.
It's not killing their brand. I disagree.
So that's the other Larry.
It's actually making their brand. Their brand is a leftist brand. Half the country is either right or tends to the right. The other half is left or tends to the left. That's a big market on both sides. Now, MSNBC and CNN haven't been able to profit from that because what they turn out is such crap that it doesn't sell. But Fox actually has done very well with their crap on the right.
Right, but here's the difference. With Lawrence Tribe, who's the author of the constitutional law textbook that's used in the majority of law schools in the United States, when you present yourself in a certain way and your friends have talked about you for years during Democratic presidential administrations as a potential Supreme Court justice, and now he's too old for that. And you see what this man writes on Twitter. If you knew nothing about him, you would think this was an angry person who was semi-literate. He has an undergraduate degree in mathematics. He's no dummy, okay? But he reveals himself to be so partisan that there is no scholarship. There is no legitimate argument.
The ends justify the means, and that's always been the case with the left. I mean, go back to Marx, go back to Trotsky, go back to the Bolshevik Revolution. The ends justify the means. Lying is a way of life to the left. They have to lie to get to their end. So, the people that want to go to Harvard, I wouldn't send my kids to Harvard. It'd be one of the last places I would ever think of. I don't care what it does in terms of getting a job with some hack big mega law firm in Washington, D.C. or New York City, is to them, that's part of the game. That's part of their modus operandi. It's what they do.
Right.
Lying is a way of life.
If you want an education, you don't have to go to college. You have to go to a library. Ray Bradbury went to the library for 4 years, and when he was done, he had read almost every book in that library. I don't know how big it was, but his record and his oeuvre speaks for itself, okay? Now, as to Tribe, though, you can't, on the one hand, say, I'm a scholar, I'm sober, and I take these issues or I approach them from an analytical point of view, especially because I have an analytical background in mathematics, and you tweet in such a way that you come across as someone who's a madman.
Lewis, I appreciate what you're saying about Tribe, and I agree with you, but Tribe is insignificant. He's a zero. He's nothing. He's a loser, okay? Let's talk about the people who are really doing damage today, in terms of this impeachment proceeding. And, on the other side, you have Dershowitz. Now, Dershowitz, we like him today because he's supporting the president, but think about who Dershowitz is. This was his colleague at Harvard.
And Dershowitz been engaged very much in a dispute online.
Frankly, I believe Dershowitz has sucked up to Trump for two reasons. One, because Trump is very pro-Israel. He's very pro-Israel, and that's good. Okay. Secondly, I think he wants a pardon if he ever gets nailed over Jeffrey Epstein. Okay.
Well, no, I have the reason why Dershowitz, by the way, switched sides so nobody had ever so quickly was because he felt betrayed by Obama. Because how every anti-Semitic or racist joke starts is some of my best friends, and that was Obama with Israel. Always you saying, well, some of my best friends are Jewish. I can't be anti-Israel. I can't be anti-Semitic. I can't be anti all these things you say. I got Dershowitz standing right over here.
Well, in fairness, and I am no supporter of former President Obama. I did not vote for him in 2008 or 2012, and I reluctantly, at the 11th hour, voted for Mitt Romney in 2012 because of what had happened in Cairo and in Benghazi. But that's a separate issue. If you look at the money that had been sent and the foreign aid that had been sent to Israel during the Obama years, if you look at that alone, you can't say reasonably that his record is anti-Israel. His record, however, with regard to Iran, the nucular deal, and the nuclear deal is very much.
But I agree with you. But let's move on to the issue of the day.
Yeah.
The issue of the day, the catch of the day, is this complete sham of a mockery of a travesty of a sham. I like to quote Woody Allen a lot. It's taking place in Congress. The American people have lost faith in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. They're a bunch of whores. I can't think of one person up there. I'm sorry, I'll say something nice about somebody today.
Yeah.
I can't think of one
That's the rule.
person
That's
up
the rule.
there that I trust, that I believe in, that is really sincere in terms of what they're doing. Most of them have left. They've left. They've quit. And it's a charade. And both people see this. I mean, both sides see this. But it doesn't matter. Because what they're trying to do is to cut the president down to size so he loses in 2020. They know that it's unlikely that he will be convicted, although I'm not so sure of that either, given what may come up during this entire proceeding. But I think Trump's biggest defense, and I turned it on today too, and this is what I do for a living, in terms of political commentary and legal cases, is that I turned the sound down. It's so boring that that's the best defense.
I literally had to mute my TV. I literally put the TV on mute, and then I couldn't stand Adam Schiff's face, so I had to just turn the TV off altogether. And that's not like me. I have no problem usually listening to other things. I am so turned off by this. By at first the impeachment, the shams, that thing, whatever they did in the House, and I'm not alone. The ratings went, tanked, and then this. It's hard.
And here's what gets under my skin too. Okay, I mean, Fox News, there's some people I like. I think Shannon Bream plays it straight. I think Bill Hemmer plays it straight. I used to turn Fox News on in the morning just to see the news with Hemmer because I think he's good. And then I'd turn it off. Then I'd watch the Golf Channel for 50 minutes and I get to work, okay? But what really kind of sickened me was to see the big grin on the face of Martha McCullum, this is great, or on some of the others on Fox News. This is boosting our ratings. Isn't this fun? We get to sit here and comment on this complete sham that's going on. As you know, at the same time that North Korea is building up its nuclear arsenal, Iran is threatening today to kill the President of the United States through one of its legislatures. And isn't this fun? It's not fun. It's a disgrace to this country.
Again,
and Fox News is a disgrace, and so are the others at MSNBC and CNN who are raking in dollars hand over fist over this complete charade, this fraud.
But in fairness, however, and I supported the impeachment of President Clinton, what Larry just said sounds very much like what Robert Wexler said against the impeachment of Bill Clinton when the House was debating the articles of impeachment. I just want to speak to some of the things that Adam Schiff said before the Senate, because I looked at the Impoundment Control Act, which was passed in response to President Nixon's impoundment of funds. And there's a 45-day limit, okay?
Right.
So
You're-
on July...
just so people understand, you're referring to the $450 million
Right.
funds that he's being accused of withholding.
Okay, which were nonetheless released.
Were released,
Okay.
yes.
The call that was made by the White House, or the call that took place, was on... I'm looking here, and I calculated the difference in time. I don't have my phone here because I was polite, but I have all the screenshots. My point being is that I did the math between when the call happened and the money was released. The money was released on of all days, September 11th.
Yeah.
Okay, that was 48 days, not 45. So then the question becomes, what constitutes an impeachable offense if a president violates the Impoundment Control Act? Is it impeachable if you're at the 46th day as opposed to the 45th day, 47th? The worst you could say, in my opinion, is that the difference in time between when the call took place, when the money was released, is 3 days. Bear in mind, September 11th was when the money was released. Congress did not become aware of the complaint by the whistleblower until September 25th. By that time, the money had been released. But Schiff went on to say, this is a quote here, okay, that the president coerced a foreign nation to help him cheat in the next election. The question is, does any president have the latitude to pursue his foreign policy, or is asking the leader of a foreign nation to do something an impeachable offense by virtue of just posing the question? And finally, Schiff went on to say that the president or prime minister of Ukraine, this came at a critical moment for Ukraine, especially given its...
They were at war with Russia.
And the need for
they've been at war.
And the need for the President Trump, to have a meeting with the president of Ukraine. And I asked friends, and this was a rhetorical question, when did Congress have the authority to mandate presidential photo ops? And when did the refusal or decision of a president based on his calendar or his prerogative not to meet with the president of a foreign country constitute an impeachable offense?
Okay, so Larry, you being the lawyer, here's the biggest question I have for you, Larry. Does any of this stuff matter?
It doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter what truth is and what fiction is. They're going to do what they want to do.
Agreed.
Okay? And again, get back to the principle, the ends justify the means. They'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll steal. It doesn't matter what they want to do. The president is the chief executive officer of this country. He can ask anybody to conduct an investigation. Just what's the matter with an investigation? Let the facts come out. And Joe Biden and his son are criminals. He should have had the attorney general.
That's the best point. That's the point that I love that you bring up, is that had the Republicans gotten on offense earlier in this game, and like you've said, Lindsey Graham, all these people, why were they not subpoenaing these people? Is there any reason they couldn't have subpoenaed Joe Biden or Hunter Biden?
There's no reason. And the president could order the FBI to investigate it. He can order the attorney general to investigate it.
Well, why doesn't he?
because he's getting bad advice. He's getting advice from people that play it safe. Okay, I like Jay Sekulow. Looks like he's had a few too many pizzas lately.
Yeah.
He needs to lose a little weight, but he's a nice guy. He's a religious rights lawyer. He's not a criminal defense lawyer, even though he spent a little time as a public defender or a prosecutor. He had the wrong people around him, and these are Washington establishment people that play it conventionally. You know, when I represented, and I still represent Jerry Corsi, we played it unconventionally. We went for Mueller's jugular. We filed criminal complaints with him at the Justice Department. We sued Mueller, and we made it so uncomfortable for Mueller that he left Corsi alone. The president had the power to do much more, to end the Mueller investigation quicker, and he has the ability to end this quicker too, but he needs to swing for the fences.
See, that's actually a really good point. I mean, that both of yours is, you know, when Trump goes with his gut, Trump wins. When he doesn't listen to the people around him, when he doesn't listen to the voices outside, he doesn't get into if Trump would have been more on the offense on this whole thing and just put the kibosh on it, we're not here. If he would have said to Lindsey Graham, go do this.
He could have reported this to Interpol,
Yeah.
okay? Not even an American agency. Investigate this Interpol. This is international crime that Biden and his son committed.
But about Adam Schiff, again, because this concerns Adam Schiff's knowledge of the basics, or actually his ignorance of the very basics of how an impeachment trial operates. He said that this should be a fair trial devoid of partisan consideration. The whole point of an impeachment trial, the whole point of impeachment, period, is that it is political.
Yeah.
That the definition of a high crime or misdemeanor is a political definition, that one could be impeached and convicted and removed from office and never even indicted for criminal wrongdoing.
Actually, Dershowitz had a epiphany today, and he said, I really didn't mean what I said during the Clinton impeachment. There has to be a crime. I mean, these people are whores. That's who they are.
Well, I'm concerned about the fact that Schiff made reference to a jury trial multiple times, and there's a ruling on this. Mitch McConnell should have objected to Chief Justice Roberts and said, excuse me, in the impeachment trial of President Clinton, Senator Tom Harkin of Iowa objected to the characterization of the members of the Senate as jurors. Chief Justice Rehnquist sustained that objection. They're not jurors. McConnell should have stood up and objected and said, Justice Roberts, there's a ruling on this. We are not jurors. This is not a jury trial in the traditional legal definition of the term. It's a political trial, and we would like you to rule on this. So is he going to rule against the man he clerked for?
If you say that to Roberts, that's why he won't rule on it. You have to basically put it in legal context, like Dershowitz did today, is that you're in effect like at a preliminary hearing here. You know, are you going to bound this over for trial, or are you going to exercise your authority and dismiss the case?
I don't think it's going anywhere.
By the way, let's just be real. I mean, let's for a second just.
But he's not going to do that.
But let's just for a second be honest with ourselves, okay? And I was talking to you before. You know, growing up, you know, I'm 43, so I was 19 during the first impeachment, and started getting into politics after that. I remember like having to choose between Bush and McCain. You know, that being one of my first real elections that I was present for. And I remember thinking, this is it. Like, this is the best this party has. And then I remember McCain and Palin, and then Ryan. And I remember thinking, this is it. This is the best this party could do. And I couldn't stand Paul Ryan, just like I can't stand Adam Schiff. And I got to be honest,
phony Washington hacks.
But I have to ask, like, you have all these friends on Facebook, and I get it. When I was on Facebook, I used to have these same people that would regurgitate what they heard on the news. And the question I really want to ask people is this who you're going to the mattresses with? Is Adam Schiff? This is the guy?
I'm more disturbed by, and it's a cheap blow by people who want to conflate a criminal defense attorney's work with the convictions against his client. That Alan Dershowitz is a bad person because he represented O.J. Simpson,
Right.
who was acquitted. And by the way, I would have voted not guilty, and I believe he is 100%. He said 110%.
I would have too.
innocent.
The government
He's
can't tamper with
100%.
evidence. The government can't tamper with
Right.
evidence to get away with it.
Everyone has a right to a defense. And I don't judge any criminal defense attorney on the clients he represents. Alan Dershowitz represented Klaus von Bülow. He represented O.J. Simpson. He represented...
A lot of he's representing a lot of different bad people, but the biggest question is though, again,
You have the liberty to choose.
But who is watching this? I mean, you grew up during a different timeline, or you grew up, and maybe I'm trying to be naive, and we always like to harken back to yesteryear when we think, hey, it was better back then. But when we see images, and I see images of Tip O'Neill, and and even Jack Kent.
I love Jack Kemp.
And these Dick Gephardt.
There, I said something good about somebody.
And Dick Gephardt, and you see the people on the left and the right, and you had a certain. I remember watching them on TV when we were young. I mean, that was really when we were young, and thinking to myself, "Well, these people have some. I like these people, like Al D'Amato. You know what I mean?"
Well, I don't know about D'Amato.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I brought him up.
You know what he said to me once? I was in a meeting. Somebody invited me to a meeting where he's, selling himself, trying to get contributions. This was before I started Judicial Watch. And he says, here's my position. Here's what I tell my constituents. And here's what I need to tell you to get money. Give me a break.
But my question is, how did we get here? How did we get that Adam Schiff has this power? I mean, this isn't... I look at Adam Schiff and I look at Nadler, I look at Hakeem Jeffries, and literally this wouldn't be my wait staff if I were opening up an Olive Garden.
No, it looks like a bad high school Model UN.
I mean, it really does. I mean, and how I don't blame this oligarchy that we have in our country, where if you're from certain counties or certain districts. I mean, John McCain, how long was he a senator in Arizona for? Just because of that R, because you held that R. If you hold a D in San Francisco, it's like, how long are people going to be this dumb until they wake up and say, I don't care if you're on the left, I don't care if you're on the right. This is not what I asked for. I mean, and really that's what Trump is a response to. That's what the election of Trump is a response to.
Well, and that's why, guys, we have to educate. It's more important than court cases these days to educate the American people. As I've said before, if you go back and you look at the writings of our founding fathers and people in and around that time, they were scientists, they were philosophers, they were people of great intellect. And what they were trying to do was to coalesce the colonies. The revolution began before July 4th, 1776, through these writings. And we were actually fighting the British before July 4th, 1776, both in Boston and in New York. And the American people today could not understand what they were writing if they took the time to read it. Of course, they don't read it.
Right.
Okay.
It's because they're not taught it.
Right, but this is what we need to do, and this is why I spend time in Hollywood, because Hollywood has the ability to change the way people think, because people will pay attention to that. Unfortunately, it's run by a bunch of ultra leftists.
Can I tell you something? It's funny that you say that, because I think that's like, everybody on the right, that's our thing, is we like to think that Hollywood...
Not for me.
I'm not talking about the people who run Hollywood.
No, but I'm saying...
If we had an opportunity to use the tools of Hollywood, we could change the way people think.
If Hollywood believed that they were the influencer that they are, Trump doesn't win the last election. He doesn't win Pennsylvania after those concerts with Jay-Z.
I'm not talking about an election. I'm talking about teaching values to the American people, the basic values.
Well, can I say something then?
Yeah.
Because the late Jack Sheldon, who passed away about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, this is why we need Schoolhouse Rock, because he was the voice of "I'm Just a Bill" on Capitol Hill. You know what I'm talking about, Larry?
Are you talking about
Conjunction, junction, what's my function?
Yes.
We need Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes, we
I would say that's as important as the Federalist Papers.
And John Ratzenberger with his bringing back shop into schools, Richard Dreyfuss.
John. He's a very nice
and
person.
Richard Dreyfuss, who's used on civics.
By the way, if you've seen him recently, he ate the shark. He didn't jump it. He ate it. He's working his way through the remaining living cast members from Jaws and just eating them whole.
And
Steven Spielberg, get a restraining order.
But the two of you with God, I'm not gonna be able to ever have dinner at anybody's house. But
John
We're
Adams
gonna need a
who
bigger
said,
boat. We'll need a bigger spoon.
John Adams who said, it doesn't matter how many times you change your rulers or forms of government, without ethics, morality, and religion, there will be no lasting liberty. That's what we need to teach. Jefferson predicted, they all predicted, that someday we would arrive at this point. This is a moment of truth. The country's going down the drain. Jefferson himself said, when the people fear the government, there's liberty. Or tyranny, but when the government fears the people, there's liberty.
Which is precisely the reason why I am going to introduce tomorrow a bill to enact Sharia law. I think that's important to have something. You need something that grounds you. That we spoke about religion. I think if we have a theocracy,
Well,
we
it's
have
not
the
a
ability-
religion.
Well, it's religious law.
and that's
so,
no,
it's not religion.
And that's for another time. But
Religion does not teach killing infidels. Religion does not teach killing gays. Religion does not teach stoning women. I'm sorry, Islam is not a religion.
Can I tell you something though? As a Muslim convert myself, I fell asleep one night outside,
and getting
I had a dream. I had a dream.
And getting back to it though.
Yes.
Getting back to the subject. You're right, but teenagers, the 20-year-olds that turned on the news this morning and watched the television, what is it that they have to look up to? And I mean this. You can mean this on both sides. So what is missing?
You know what's missing? A sense of proportion. Okay, when Nancy Pelosi
That's actually a
handed
good
out
point.
pens with her signature on the pens, gold on black, the closest we've come to a very powerful speaker who really wasn't as powerful as he was portrayed was Newt Gingrich 25 years ago, who went on air and delivered a primetime address because it was so momentous was the 1994 election.
Fan or not a fan? Sorry.
And downhill ever since.
Right. But he got primetime coverage to deliver an address and for a brief moment eclipsed President Clinton in the news, where the president had to say, the Constitution makes me relevant. So we had a virtual prime minister for a very brief period of time, but he wasn't sending out or passing out pens with his signature on it. Okay?
Well, let me tell you what he did. Okay, let's.
That's actually a great point.
Let me talk about the other side real quickly. Okay, Newt Gingrich took a dive on Clinton's impeachment and conviction, and I know because I was in on it. I was working with Bob
He was also
Barr.
having an affair at the time.
Well, there was that, but they just wanted to wound Clinton because it would wound Gore for the 2000 elections. Clinton committed with his lovely wife Hillary over 40 major scandals when he was in office. Some of the bigger ones: Chinagate, taking bribes from the Chinese. I helped uncover that at Judicial Watch. IRS Gate, sicking the IRS on people. That's what Nixon did. Travelgate, firing people in the White House travel office because you wanted to hire your friends, the Thomasons. I can go on and on and on. But they didn't want to actually take him out. They just wanted to wound him and Gore. And they put the country through this. And the thing I wrote about in my book, and this is an expression,
Horrors.
while Clinton was having oral sex with Monica Lewinsky, it was the American people that were really getting screwed, okay? Because at that time, Osama bin Laden was building up to attack us on 9/11. We took our eye off the ball, and that's what we're doing now. God forbid there's going to be another major catastrophe as these court jesters up there on Capitol Hill are playing patty cakes with themselves, literally. Masturbation on Capitol Hill, and that's what it is. And the country, is at risk because we're taking our eye off
No,
the
you're
ball
completely
again.
right.
No,
It's one big circle jerk, and I loved what you said. Your point is, no offense to you, you've had exceptional points, and I love what you just said. But what Lewis said is an exceptional point of proportionality.
But I want to say something here. Allow me to fast
sure.
forward 2 days from when this show airs. Did you know Larry was depressed? Because I can't believe he killed himself. We were talking about the Clintons, and then
Larry Justice.
I'm going to miss you. I'm
Larry
going to miss
Justice.
you so much. I'm going to miss you. I don't think we can do this without.
Well, look,
did you know he was? Did he say anything?
Can I tell
to
you what's really? Can I tell you what's really scary about that? Is because I love Larry Klayman, and you're right. Tonight I want to sometimes call him Larry Justice, because Larry is if I'm to believe half this stuff, the three of us aren't safe. Okay, so if you're listening in 2 or 3 days or in a year, and the three of us accidentally, a crane fell us, on.
No, it's ricin. It's ricin.
No, it could be.
It'll look like a heart attack, but it'll be ricin.
Now, people often say, Larry, you're negative sometimes. Okay, I'm an optimist actually because I want to change things. The only way you change things is to confront the truth.
No, but I love
then
what he said.
Then you can change things.
But I love what he said, and it's an exception. It's really. I don't want to toot your ego because it's big enough.
No, it's not.
It has a lot to do with proportionality, right? Because what did you keep on hearing them say in the House? That this is a matter of national emergency, right? This is us getting through this impeachment and signing this and sending it to the Senate. It's of life and death.
Look at who these people are, okay? These are people who thought it was terrible that Trump wanted to actually talk to Putin to work things out.
How dare us?
These leftists, okay, Moscow is their Mecca. It's their equivalent of Mecca, okay? They have no problem with Russia. Only they have a problem with Trump. Bernie took his honeymoon in Moscow. These people are leftists.
He went to Moscow and he never came back. That's like, you could make a, the real Bernie.
It could be a movie, Honeymoon in Moscow.
Yeah, the real Bernie actually did come back. And but I think you're completely right, though, about proportionality. Everything is, this is... I mean,
Schiff says the president's, if we don't have this trial, if we don't have impeachment, then no president is accountable. We have elections.
Okay,
there's an election in November.
I gotta say this. And no offense, you know what? I don't really care. If you're a Democrat, if you're on the left, and Adam Schiff is your guide, you are falling off a freaking cliff, or you are out of your mind.
You know what?
And I am not saying this as anything. If somebody were to said that to me about Paul Ryan, they would have been 100% correct. If somebody would have said that about George Bush, okay, they would have been 100% correct.
Let me make a point here.
Please.
Okay, our founding fathers were very enlightened people by God, but they weren't God, and they made some major mistakes, in my view. And that's why most conservatives don't want to open up the Constitution and have any more amendments, but I actually do, okay? That's why I want to have a third Continental Congress.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Next year.
Very excited.
You're invited.
Thank you.
Okay.
But that's in the calendar, and don't bring it up.
No.
Yeah, but the reality is that impeachment is not a good mechanism. We've never succeeded in our entire history of removing any president, and some presidents did deserve to be removed, not Trump. Okay, and it's a charade.
Well, let's go through it. And to bring up your point, just to point this out to people, since we're
now at every 25 years, starting with Nixon, who wasn't impeached, but we're for 74, 98.
Because in the interest of honesty, though.
It's a road show. It's a reality series.
But what I was about to say...
It accomplishes nothing.
But what I was about to say to prove your point, let's go to Reagan, right? The beloved darling, right? But we could all admit that Iran-Contra, massive failure. Safe to say?
For whom?
For Reagan. It was not a good...
And what did Reagan do? You guys are young. He went around the Boland Amendment.
Boland
or whatever, and he figured a way to get aid to the Contras by defying Congress. Okay. Yeah. That was impeachable, right?
But that's my point. Then get to the next one, right? Then you got HW, right?
And I love Reagan, by the way.
I know.
And frankly, I thought it was a good idea. My good friend is Craig Gillen, who was number 2 under Lawrence Walsh. We used to have dinner every night at the same place, Houston's in Georgetown. He would come in there, I would come in there. It was like Cheers. We had the Indian chief. We had everybody there. And I would fight with Craig, and I love him. Craig happens to be one of the finest criminal defense lawyers in this country. That's who Trump should have gotten to defend him. But I said,
I think he should have gotten you.
Frankly, I said this, I'm glad Reagan did that. You had to get aid to the Contras. I frankly don't care.
But getting back to what I'm saying, so we had Reagan that did that. We could all admit that. Then you had Bush who did his own things. Then you had Clinton who did obviously many of his own things. And then you had, if you take Benghazi, you take Fast and the Furious, if you take all these things under the Obama administration, and you take Iran-Contra, and then you compare that with the stupid phone call with Ukrainian aid, where most people in America couldn't pinpoint on a stupid map. Okay, it is so insignificant.
Well, American Greatness had a piece about this some time ago, in which the author said, we should just accept the fact, or the American people should know, that by definition, the presidency is now an impeachable offense. To be president is to have committed an impeachable offense.
There are times that a president needs to be removed. Impeachment is not a vehicle that has ever worked or will ever work. It's just a bunch of waste of time and diverts the attention away from important issues in this country.
You're completely right. It diverts attention from what's actually really going on. Getting back to a conspiratorial theory. I'm not saying.
And I question the Republican form of government too. I question putting power in the hands of these representatives in Congress to vote for me, giving them a carte blanche because they were put there. They get to do whatever they want with no accountability. I think we got a problem here. I think we need to rethink our form of government because, I forgot who said it, but one of our founding fathers said, basically, well, as I just said with Adams as one example, is that the government is only good as the people that run it. And when they are so totally corrupt as they are today, it doesn't matter what form of government you have, it fails. And we do need to be able to remove presidents. Look, whether or not the Clintons killed over 80 people, I think they didn't kill all 80. Law of average, they killed a few, okay? Okay.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah,
including Epstein.
It's so soothing for the rest of us hanging around near you.
But
for the record, we're
what do
in
you
Utah
do?
right
What do
now.
you do?
Right.
What do you do if a president goes out and kills his political enemies or whatever? I mean, Trump didn't do that. Okay, I'm sure other presidents have killed people in the past. There needs to be a way to remove these presidents, but impeachment is not the way to do it.
No, again, you're completely right. And just to bring it back, this isn't. Neither of us in here are stating a Democrat thing or love of the Democrats we're just. It's if you turn on the TV this morning and you're a Democrat and you say this is the best we can do, I can't have a conversation with you because I know it's not. I know that these 7 schmucks that are the what are they called, the House managers are
well, in this case, Judah, it's the Democrats, but flip it to the Republicans, and you say the same thing.
Well, I have enormous respect for Henry Hyde. I think he was a giant.
I think he means now. I
Well,
think he means,
you know what? Hyde took a dive in the impeachment proceeding with Bill Clinton, and I know that because I was working with Barr and Shippers and others on the Hill. He would not let them get into areas. Let me tell you just a quick story, okay? When I was at Judicial Watch, we did an impeachment report on Chinagate, Filegate, IRSgate, Travelgate, all of them. Bob Barr, by the way,
I interned for him.
Introduced this. No. He was the congressman from Georgia. Our impeachment report, as the Democrats were going to dinner, they were more concerned to go to dinner, and he and others stayed behind, and it was entered into the congressional record. Okay, that's just for history. But there were really serious offenses that Clinton had committed, and Hyde would not let that proceeding to be opened up to those offenses. And Dave Shippers, the impeachment manager, was really upset and angry. So was Barr and others. Because if you wanted to really get Clinton, if you really wanted to impeach him, it wasn't on sex with a White House intern. It was taking bribes from China, actual bribes. And we caught him red-handed doing it. And the Republicans didn't want to face it because the Democrats were smart. When they had the hearings, they dug up some dirt with Haley Barbour, who was running the Republican National Committee, and stuff he was doing in Hong Kong, minor compared to what Clinton did.
We're going to have to trust you on this, Lewis and I, because this is like in the weeds sort of stuff.
But they shut it down. Get my book, Whores, Why and How I Came to Fight the Establishment.
I love how you pitch that, by the way.
You can get it on.
I love it.
I get no royalties,
I love it.
believe me, on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. There's still some copies left. But the bottom line is this. It was mutual assured destruction, and they all went away, and they said, okay, we're going to, McCain-Feingold, we're going to have campaign finance legislation, like telling OJ, we're going to pass a law so you can't kill Nicole Simpson again. And
Right,
they went
Ron
off,
Goldman.
and they went off, and they committed crimes again.
Let's bring it back to today.
Please.
Yes.
I didn't know Larry Long, but I knew him well enough to know he was a man of character, distinction, and principle. In our conversations, he never suggested, he never said he was depressed. This loss is a loss for justice, freedom. I'm sorry, I can't go on.
Long live Larry Justice.
Long, but I mean, and maybe that's when people can.
And then when they bury me, I want to be buried with my dog.
But can I ask you an honest question?
Because the only friend you'll have in Washington is your dog.
I just want to. Do we have revisionist history? Were there better people back then?
Yes, there were.
Define when.
Well, I mean, obviously, Larry's a little bit older.
There's no comparison to what we had back then. Okay, look, Jefferson had slaves.
No, I'm not talking about back then. I'm talking about even into the 60s or the 50s or the 70s.
It's progressively worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 68 years old. I can't remember clowns like we have today, and clowns is the nice way of putting it.
You were 67.
People that
when was your birthday?
lie straight up to your face. Now look, I'm a child of Vietnam. I believed, and my mother taught me this, that the president was chosen by God. I thought that when Lyndon Johnson said that we needed to get into Vietnam and created the pretext to do that, the Gulf of Tonkin, we later found out, I believed that we had to go to Vietnam. Okay, but the American people learned better. And we learned over time that our politicians, by and large, are a bunch of liars. Okay, and they do it for themselves. Look at all the kids that have died in wars for no reason, including Iraq, including Afghanistan, including this. We have no intention of winning those wars because we have the ability to take care of let's look at Iran. We have the ability to take them out right now. So, this is the point that the American people have gotten to, and this is where left kind of converges with right. Is that left wants to turn this country into a communist gulag. The right wants it to stay capitalist and proceed. But we both understand the far left and the far right, how evil and corrupt the government is. We have that in common.
Look, I was a little kid at the time, but my mother, she turned 82 this month in January, and she remembers watching the television photo when the GIs brought you back from Vietnam as a small Vietnamese child and here to the States, and you're an incredible patriot, and I salute you for that.
55,000 people died in Vietnam. Hundreds of thousands wounded and maimed. Now people are going to Vietnam on vacation. I would not go to Vietnam. I think that's a blasphemy.
Yeah.
They killed 55,000 of our people.
So you obviously wouldn't go to Cuba.
Now, I must say, Vietnamese people are generally nice. There are a lot of them out here in California and Washington, D.C., and you see them in daily life. And they're nice people, but the people that ran that regime in Hanoi were evil people. They were barbarians.
Agreed.
Like the people that now run Iran. And today,
we're not going to war with
everything's
Iran.
made in Vietnam. Why did we lose 55,000 people if now they're our great friend?
I'm just thinking.
Ask the ghost of Robert McNamara.
I'm just thinking in my head of areas that Lewis and I cannot go on vacation.
Right.
So Iran.
Well, unless we have plastic surgery and facial reconstruction.
Yes, Iran and Vietnam.
As a Jew, it would not be good for your health.
It would, well, I got to be honest, because somebody that I love and care about deeply loves to travel, and a lot of the vacation spots she brings up, I'm constantly like thinking to myself, even though I just hate traveling, it's like I don't know what it is, but I'm constantly thinking, well, the Greek Isles, would I be? Or
you'd be fine.
The Greeks are nice.
France, would I be?
Nice people, good food, nice people.
What about France?
I'm a Francophile.
Okay, so who do you?
I studied there.
Tell me two places you like.
You know why I like the French? Because they stand up for what they profess to believe in. Okay, I think De Gaulle was one of the greatest leaders of the 20th century. He saved Israel twice. He supplied the military equipment to Israel as it was going down the drain in 1948.
Did a lot
Truman was nowhere to be found.
By the way, just so you know, Lewis, he brought up a great point.
And let me say something.
You ruined it with that story about the 82-year-old mother. So he brought up a great point. I'm gonna have to listen to it on the when we re-listen to the show.
You calling your mother a liar?
No, I mean people always say the French are anti-Semitic. Yeah, everybody has anti-Semitic strains, anti-Christian strains, anti-other strains. It just so happens the French happen to have had 4 prime ministers and presidents who are Jewish. How many have we had?
Which prime ministers have been Jewish?
Mendes France, Léon Blum, Sarkozy was half Jewish.
He didn't identify as such.
Right, and many people
He
think
didn't
think Mitterrand was part Jewish, even though he was a Nazi collaborator.
Yeah. But this isn't like the Hitler thing. You're saying that these people are actually Jewish.
They're Jewish.
Okay, just curious.
I'm not
convinced.
I'm not convinced
that Hitler didn't have a Jewish.
Which brings us back full circle to Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler.
Right.
And if you are waking up and you are for the next God knows how many weeks, and you turn on the TV.
But turn it on to C-SPAN. Do yourself a favor. Turn it on to C-SPAN because it'll be free of the commentators.
He's actually, you know what? You're completely right. By the way, sometimes C-SPAN, when they have these public things, is truly the best thing to
watch
turn on.
the presidential debates on C-SPAN.
You're not getting,
watch the press conferences.
You're getting sort of an unfiltered.
Yes, no one's going to tell you afterward.
Yeah.
This person won. This person lost.
And it's getting so to your friends on Facebook, to people that when I was on Facebook, that I used to be friends with these same people, and I would, you'd have to literally sit there and just stomach this.
I don't care.
I know at this point you don't, but it used to be, and I know you're not on Facebook, Larry, or any of these sort of.
Well, I actually am, but I don't use it. I've got a lot of followers.
Yeah.
You know what my brother said to me once? One of my brothers.
He said, "Larry."
No, I was very active.
Not brothers.
I was active.
Right.
I was, and I like the Iranian people, not
Yeah.
the regime or anything like that. I've represented many of them. I have many Iranian friends, and that's not racist. Okay.
No,
No,
we're still on that hilltop
Yeah.
with a Coke.
Yeah.
Okay. I used to go to the Iranian synagogue here and sit there with the
I got to
rabbi.
tell you something. I got to
Okay.
tell.
But
So
let me-
no. I just want to tell. Utah is so beautiful right now.
It is.
Okay,
It
but
is.
anyway,
Yeah.
so when I was suing Iran and the regime for killing Akbar Mohammadi and torturing manager, these were student leaders that wanted to turn the government over, regime change in 2009. All these Iranians flocked to Facebook. Okay, some of them friendly, many of them unfriendly.
Yeah.
And my brother, I said, he looked at my Facebook and he said, "What is that, a terrorist watch list?"
That's actually pretty funny. Or like people probably thought his like Twitter feed was fake after that.
But what I'm beginning to think now, nobody stays alive this long unless he's an agent of the government.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You see, because going down the
Nobody misses this many drone strikes.
I got to tell you, Lewis just brought it up. Another exceptional point. Larry Klayman, how are you still alive?
Well, when I ran Judicial Watch, people said, we're not giving you money unless you have security. I actually had 2 security guards, and they were, one was a Navy SEAL. And there's kind of a funny story here, is that I think he was more frightening than the Clintons in some ways. He was like a Doberman pincer that could turn on you at any moment. And then he had my business cards that he would hand out at events. The guy went after any woman within 10 feet. So one of them, he wants to, get to know the woman quickly. So he gives
Sounds
her,
like he was
he
living
gives
on
her,
the
he gives
ball.
her my card, right? And then she tells him, I had an affair with Bill Clinton. So I was more frightened by my own security than I was otherwise, because, I am religious. I believe in, I'm a fatalist and I'm religious. What will be, will be.
and then bringing it back to the.
You were an optimist at the beginning of this
Yeah.
show.
Larry, that's
I am
the
an
thing.
optimist.
People contain multitudes, and that's one of the things I
am
love
an
about
optimist.
Larry is Larry, more than anybody I've ever, one of the few, it contains a lot of multitudes.
Well, as a lay psychiatrist myself, lithium.
But it's got to be, I don't know what it's like for you, but I know what it's like for Lewis and I think I do. And I would imagine for everybody out there that's watching in the morning, that's listening in the morning, that if your news sources, and that was a great suggestion, the C-SPAN thing, but if your news sources are coming from Fox, CNN, MSNBC, and this is what you're waking up to, and none of them say out loud, and I don't care which side you're on. If either of these any of these news organization in quotes aren't saying, is this the best we can do? Forget about the president. But is the House and the Senate, is this the best is Adam Schiff
No,
and
that's
Jerry
what I'm talking-
Nadler the best House managers that we could? I mean, my God. When everybody says that Nancy Pelosi is this genius, no, she's not. I mean, you just send out Adam Schiff. I mean, but maybe that's the best they have in their camp. I just don't know.
That is the best they have in their camp, and let's be candid. Half the country believes what they say, takes it hook, line, and sinker, and they don't care whether what they say is true or false. They simply want to hang the president. They want to crucify the president. They want to nail him to the cross.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
I agree, and you're right. And listen. We could say the same thing. I know some people will say the same thing about Republicans and the Clintons, and that's fair to say in some ways. Maybe we shouldn't have gone there. I know you want it, but did you want Bill Clinton to be impeached as much as you want him hung?
I really didn't care that much about the impeachment. I wanted him indicted.
That's my point. You didn't care about the.
By the way, I'm the only lawyer ever to have a court rule. It was in a civil context that Bill Clinton committed a crime. Any president. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. That's on my resume. But you know what? To this day, I will be the first to tell you that I did not succeed at taking the Clintons out, and they came back like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. and I had an opportunity. Judge Royce Lamberth, who I love, he's a friend. He did a lot. He allowed me to take depositions. They wound up, on nightly television shows. He let me do my thing. But you know what? He had the ability to take Hillary out in the first email scandal, and he lost his nerve. Okay, and to this day, I was critical in my book. I went in to see him when I didn't have any cases. I said, Your Honor, I'm very grateful for what you've done, but you could have taken the Clintons out. And then he said to me, he's got a good sense of humor, because I said, I wish, frankly, Your Honor, that you were nominated to the Supreme Court. And he said to me, there's 2 words that explain why not. I said, what's that? He says, Larry Klayman.
And there we are. And Louis Fine, the great ombudsman, I want to thank you for being here once again.
A pleasure.
And all the research. You did a lot of good research. I really like that you were listening to. I don't know how you managed to listen to Adam.
I didn't. I didn't listen to Adam Schiff. I read his statement. I read the text of the statement, and I would encourage people to do that, or watch this without the commentary on both sides, and ask yourself the question.
You can't watch it. It's too boring to watch.
And I love, and you know what's great?
There are more boring
I love
things.
Larry's answer just now. This is what I love about Larry's stuff, is that Larry is completely honest and says, I didn't care about the impeachment. The impeachment was probably the worst thing that the Republican Party could have done. It really was, in a sense. And look where we are now because of it. You did want Clinton indicted, but not for what they were going after him for. You wanted him to be indicted for the 800 criminal acts that he committed in a 30-second span of 2 years, and
he continues to commit in a racketeering enterprise called the Clinton Foundation.
And that's what I love about Larry. I just want
Let me read from page 4.
Yes,
A giant
of
the legal profession, an advocate, a patriot, a man whose name will live on for the generations.
Okay, I want
Louis, you are going to give my eulogy.
He really should, by the way. He's with all the sincerity. Give us since you're 67 now, and
No, you said he's 68. Last week he was 67. When was your birthday?
So you're
68 and a half.
Okay, let me ask you a question. You're 68 now. What age is the age where no autopsy needed? Just so we know, because we'll fight for you after, even if it's 30 years. Give us an age.
Well, there'll never be an autopsy. It'll be covered up.
No. Louis and I.
We're going to be in the room with Michael Batten.
Yeah, we're going to be. We're going to be bringing.
I'm catering. I'm catering the claimant autopsy.
My dad lived to almost 90. He smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. He ate a pound of meat every day.
Is 84 safe?
Meat family.
84.
No. I say 90.
And on that note, I want to tell everybody
if I make it that far,
the best way to find us is first of all, American Greatness. Thank you for hosting us. That's AM Greatness. Right, Louis?
Yeah, you're doing well.
AMGreatness.com.
You're doing well.
And our YouTube channel. Also on Twitter at LK4 everyone. On Facebook, on everywhere. Instagram, all these different places. I'd like to thank Louis for helping out a lot with that. That's LK4 everyone. I just want everybody to remember, argue if you need to, read because... God, I keep on getting that wrong. I can't read. And reading is
fundamental.
It is fundamental. But I want to just read. And that's Louis's point. Read. It doesn't matter. Just read. Don't listen to what the talking heads for ratings are trying to get us. Right, Larry? Just read.
Turn it off.
Put
your popcorn down.
Yeah.
Lounge lizards and couch potatoes. Put your beer down. Get up off the couch.
This is how you win it.
Join our Justice League at Freedom Watch or some other way that you can try to make the world a little better. And turn off Sean Hannity.
Let's crank out our next one.
Okay, let me make a quick call.
Yeah.